Hey everybody, this is Greg Koopman. Should we use the automatic date hierarchy feature that Power BI provides us? Okay, first of all, what is the automatic date hierarchy feature? Well, basically, it is where every time you place a date in one of your tables, okay, whether it's in fact internet sales or wherever, so you see order date, it will Power BI will automatically create a hierarchy of year, quarter, month, and day. Okay, and when you drag that and put it onto a matrix, for example, you'll be able to drill down, and you automatically get some nice features there. Okay, and that's all well and good, and it seems like it's pretty good feature, but a lot of times you don't need all these dates. In fact, they get confusing to your users or your developers. And in some scenarios, or most scenarios of development, you probably won't want them. But there are other scenarios where it will come in very handy. Okay, for example, in my consolidating and profiling using Power BI video, I discussed how you could use this as an on-the-fly tool. In that case, with I could see where this could be very useful. Or with a beginner developer that just needs to get a couple reports out, and you're not working in such a structured, highly controlled reporting department by choice. So I can see where this could be very beneficial. Okay, and I gave two examples here. One is where you use the non-advanced, or the non-advanced user who doesn't know DAX. They create a report up here for the ordered amounts and the shipped amounts and the due date and the due amounts based on those dates, right? And as you see, they all are a little different because it's by their nature, and they all have their hierarchy. And the hierarchy, which I was impressed, automatically is sorted properly by the month and everything else. So that's kind of pretty cool. All right, there are a few different things here that are not so cool, and that is when you place, let's say for this visual, and you bring in your hierarchy for order date, for example, you can't come in here and just change the names that you can generally, where you can rename like order. This says order date, or year, right? Although it's an order date, it doesn't show order date here. So I had to literally put in a title on the visual to show the ordered, and the shipped, and the due. It would have been nice if I could have just said next to the column ordered year or whatever like that. Or if you want to change something like from quarter, this way to the full, where you want to spell out the whole thing, and you notice you don't have the exact date, you just have the numbers down here for the days. So there's some things that aren't, you're kind of stuck with what you got, but it's pretty good, I think. I don't think it's too bad. Now, the problem with it is that in this scenario, right, a lot of times you'd like to get all these on the same, it'd be nicer if there's all in one report. You don't have to have three different reports. You have to, when you want to compare for the same year, right? So I can compare it still, don't get me wrong. So 2012, my shipped amount was 5 million. And then I go over here, and it was almost the same for my shipped amount, and my due date also was just a little different there also. So you could still visually see this, but what's a lot nicer is something like I show down here, where you just can show the date, and you show ordered, shipped, and due amounts right next to each other in a nice, concise manner. And this is a more advanced report, and this doesn't use all the different dates. It just uses the date up in the dim date, up in here where you see dim date. It just uses the one calendar year in this case, or where I could have had a hierarchy. But this is a lot slicker, a lot better probably. and probably what you want to use in your more formal reports. Okay. Okay, so that's a difference. And what this does, this actually incorporates some, these are measures, okay, which I'll just show you briefly, but I'm not going to go into any discussion of them. So, for example, like your ship date, your shipped amounts. So your shipped amounts would be shipped right here. So if I look at that DAX, it's a calculate, and it uses a relationship. And basically, we get into that into a different video. That's not what this video is all about. This video is just to give you a high-level understanding of this feature, automatic date hierarchies. So actually, another negative of using the automatic hierarchy is that every time there's a date in any one of these, it's going to create that hierarchy. And basically, under the covers, that's creating a new table. And each one of those tables is taking up more memory. And that could be, detrimental to some of your performance also. So if we're working on just a one-off thing where someone's using it on the fly for profiling and consolidation, that's not a big deal. But if you're using it where you're having hundreds of, lots of people using it, and performance, it's affecting performance in any sort of way, or memory usage in a negative way might have a big impact, then you might not want to use it also, as well as the confusion of having so many different dates for different things. So let's go ahead and show you how to, so that's your choice based on the scenario you're involved with. But let's show you how you turn that on and off, because that's very important. So if you want to just turn it off, you come into options and settings and go to options. Now this setting is in two different places. Notice there's a global category up here and a current file. Okay, so if we want to turn it off globally, okay, here it is, auto date time for new files. Okay, and you can look at the info message there and it tells you more. But if I turn that off, okay, and I say okay, it has no effect on this file. Okay, every time I open a new file, a new report, it's not going to have all those. It's not, when it sees a date, it's not going to have the hierarchy. But in this particular file, it still exists. The way you turn it off for this particular file is you go back into options, you come over here, and you go down to current file, and you go to data load, and in the middle of the page under time intelligence, if you uncheck that box and I click OK, it does only now just show the lowest date. Okay, it just shows the date. There's no more hierarchy anywhere to be found, right? So you saw that change. So if I went over to due date, for example, which used to have a hierarchy, notice it just says due date. It doesn't have the hierarchy. Okay, so that's one way you can turn off the auto date hierarchy. Obviously, if you go back over there and you go to options and you go back down to data load and check it, and voila, it should all come back. Okay, you might have to reapply them, but as you see, order date, it has its hierarchy there. It all came back. Due date now has this hierarchy. Okay, and when you go back to your visuals, you'll probably have to reapply them. So you'd say order date, for example, here, and you just uncheck it, go back in and check it, and now you got your whole hierarchy again. All right, so that's how that works. There's one other thing I want to point out, though. If your date table, which in this case is my dim date up here, you notice it also has a hierarchy on its full date alternate key, which is really the date part of that. Okay, and it creates a date hierarchy. Now, if you don't want the date hierarchy, if you want the date hierarchy on all your other tables, but not on your dim date table, you can, and generally your dim date is going to be your date calendar set to date calendar. So basically, if you go to dim date, right, and you see the mark as date table, well, if it's unchecked and it's not set as your date table, because you only have one date table, you can name it, yabba dabba do for that matter, but you can only, it has nothing to do with the name, but basically it's date table is. So here you mark it as date table. If you mark it as date table, that hierarchy, that auto hierarchy will go away. Okay, so I'm going to mark it as date table, and it asks me what column, and it's going to be my full date alternate key. I say OK, and it sets it now. So now when I come back over to the designer and I look over at dim date and look at my full date hierarchy, full date alternate key, you don't see a hierarchy anymore. Okay, yet you do see it still down in my fact internet sales due date. All these are still has that date hierarchy built in. So anyways, that's my explanation about auto date hierarchy, and when you might want to use it, when you might not want to use it, and a couple little details. Okay, thanks. I hope you enjoyed this video, and good luck.